The timing really couldn't be worse, as Jeremy Sochan, after an offseason of incredibly intense training looking to improve upon his game, his three-point stroke looking smooth as he was training with Team Poland for Eurobasket, has sustained a calf injury which in recent NBA history has been one of the more devastating injuries to some stars. We have to dive into the nature of the injury, what Sochan himself had to say about it. He gives the timeline for his recovery, but also GM Brian Wright has something to say on it. But this impacts a lot more than just Jeremy Sochan's health and the start of the season for the Spurs, as we have to get into another aspect of this that does raise some questions on our front. We got to get into all that coming up in this episode of Spurs Digest, and we're going to start here. Mateus Babiar is saying Jeremy Sochan is out of Eurobasket. The Polish forward will return to San Antonio for more tests and rehabilitation following a calf injury sustained at national team camp. And Sochan himself saying, I'm beyond disappointed to share that due to a calf strain, I have to step away from representing Poland at Eurobasket. And I want to start this. You heard me say in the intro, a calf injury is one of the worst injuries for NBA players as of late, not because of some incredibly long recovery time. We'll get into the recovery time in just a minute. We got more quotes from Sochan, from Brian Wright, and a few other aspects to this. But the thing is, we've noticed a lot of Achilles tears recently. And when you have a calf strain, there have been, from what I understand, I could be wrong, please correct me if I'm wrong, but there is a pretty strong relationship between playing through a calf strain and injuring your Achilles tendon. I think we've seen it multiple times, Kevin Durant being a big thing. I believe Halliburton also had a calf strain, so it's something you really don't want to mess around with. So at the forefront of this, I want to just say I am very happy that he is not participating in Eurobasket after learning of this injury news, because if you have Jeremy Sochan playing through a calf strain going into Eurobasket, that is something no one would be happy with. And the Spurs, I'm sure, would be like, listen, buddy, like that might even be a violation of his contract. Who knows, right? These contracts these days have all kinds of stuff for, extracurriculars. I mean, I don't know, stuff outside the NBA now where if you get hurt, you got to do X and Y and Z. But yeah, so to hear that he's not playing through a calf strain is good news. I really was excited to see him play for Team Poland because, again, his extension is pending, and that is something I want to get into a little later in this video. And that's that other aspect that's just like, this just raises some more questions on that. But before I get to that, I want to shed some light as to what Brian Wright had to say about the whole situation. GM Brian Wright said, due to his injury, Jeremy received professional help in Poland. The cooperation with the Koszkadra staff and management has always been exemplary. However, in this situation, the best option is for Jeremy to return to San Antonio. And once again, I agree. And it's not that, hey, Team Poland, like, you don't have the adequate facilities, whatever. It's like, listen, this guy, I'm sure I know he really wants to represent Team Poland. I know we got Polish fans, and I'd love to hear your thoughts down below. Do you think it's okay that he's coming back to San Antonio? Like, at the end of the day, San Antonio is the one signing his paychecks. He is a San Antonio Spur, but he is also a Polish national team member. And it's hard to put one in front of the other, but if you're Brian Wright in the Spurs, you're the one that he's signed a contract to. This just has to make sense. And it's the case with most players who get injured in this type of way. Like, when Paul George broke his leg in that horrific fashion, he had to go back with his team, right? Like, this is just something that happens. But the important thing, though, is that Sochan looks like he will be okay for training camp as he reveals his timeline here. We'll make this full screen for you guys so you can take a look. He said, I've been working so hard my whole offseason for this, and the past several weeks of training and competing with the national team has been incredible. This is a special group, and I was really looking forward to being a part of this team. Fortunately, my doctors expect a full recovery in time for training camp for the upcoming season. So, with all that said, seems like he'll just be out for a few weeks, maybe 3-4 weeks, which is great news, right? But again, with calf strains, you want to be uber cautious. And again, when you're looking at the projected opening night roster, as you guys may know, I'm a big Jeremy Sochan truther. I'm devastated by this news. Look, as much as he said he'll be ready for training camp, ready to go for the start of the season, like I said, this is something you want to ease back into. And historically, with Jeremy Sochan, the Spurs have done a really good job of easing him back from injuries, right? His back trouble, like he had minutes restrictions. The Spurs don't play around with that kind of stuff. So I would not be surprised that even if he's good to go, unless he is like 1000%, there is absolutely no indication of any kind of calf strain left. If that's the case, fine. Roll him out, play a bunch of minutes. If that's not the case, I think that he could very well start the season on a minutes restriction. This is me projecting, though, so I think there's a world where he's healthy. I don't want to give my medical opinion because I have no idea, but I'm just saying that if there's any type of lingering problem at all, the Spurs seem like the type of organization that take it very, very seriously. And, wouldn't shock me to see Harrison Barnes starting. Wouldn't shock me to see Barnes starting anyway, though. You guys in the live stream, it was pretty split down the middle, 50-50 between if you think Harrison Barnes or Jeremy Sochan will start the season at the 4. And I think now that poll might swing a bit towards Harrison Barnes. But that's amazing news that Jeremy Sochan should be good to start the season because, again, he was such an important player for us last season when fully healthy, when not on that minute restriction after coming back from injury, when he was right at the end of the season as he got back into his rhythm and right at the start of the season. We've brought this up a bunch of times, but the dude was basically like a 15-9 player shooting 55-ish% from the field. And that three-point percentage is also looking to get better. And again, he's put in an incredible offseason of training. This dude's locked in. He really wanted to represent Team Poland at the Euros. And right here, you can see, like, even from his own Instagram, I think social media pages, he was ripping some threes, and his form looks great. The hitch is greatly reduced. I mean, he's done a ton of work to improve his game. But you got to think for Jeremy Sochan, the timing could not be worse because of, again, his impending contract extension. Because if he had a good Eurobasket, and I know it's not against NBA talent, like full rosters of NBA talent every single night, it's still a very important tournament. And for a guy like him, you want every leverage point possible to give yourself the opportunity to make more money. And, like, naturally, as a lot of us would, right? And again, when you look at the team this year, there is a lot of talent on this team. The ball can only go around to so many players, as we have now Dylan Harper coming in, who's going to command a good amount of shots that maybe weren't commanded last year. And you got De'Aaron Fox, who's going to be there for a full healthy season. Stephon Castle's going to likely see an increased offensive load. Devin Vassell as well. And of course, you have a full season of Wemby. And then you have other guys like Olynyk who can come in and even play some of the minutes at the 4 that Sochan was seeing. Barnes, his shooting is so valuable that he's going to have to play a lot. So Sochan's minutes, I don't want to say they're going to be reduced this year because, again, like, it's hard to say it because he only played 25 minutes a game when healthy last year. He could have been up near 30. But I honestly think between 20 and 25 is probably what we should expect from Jeremy Sochan to start the season. However, he's one of these guys, though, like we talk about with Carter Bryant, that, like, this dude could just force himself into the rotation, and he probably will due to his defensive capabilities. And Sochan is not out there to score you 20 points a night. He never will be. That's not his goal. I think he will be an all-defensive team member at some point, and especially if his three-point shot creeps up towards 34, 35, 36%, he'll just see more and more and more minutes every single night. So, yes, there's more depth to the Spurs now, so Sochan's minutes and touches could be reduced so his numbers go down, but I don't necessarily think the importance to the team is going to go down. It's a really interesting place because, again, when you're talking about contract negotiations, I think the Spurs are going to be more than fair with what they offer him, but now, especially now, I don't see that getting done this offseason because Sochan is not in a point to leverage his position for more money, right? So if I'm Sochan and I'm the Spurs probably want to say, listen, Jeremy, I think it's fair. We'll give you a shot in the regular season. We'll see how you start to do. It'll give us a better idea. And Jeremy's like, listen, yeah, I'm not actually this injury prone where I know I keep getting hurt, but, like, trust me, just let me show what I can do in the regular season. That does make a difference. So I'm curious to see how this affects contract negotiations. I'm curious to see how this affects the start of the season, or even if it will, since he should be good for training camp. But just devastating news, and it couldn't have come at a worse time, honestly, for a guy like Jeremy Sochan and for a Spurs team that was looking to be ready to go into this season healthy all together. This just mars it a little bit. I don't think it's a huge deal, but regardless, come on, this time of year, right when we were getting hyped, it does suck, but wishing him the best. He should be good for training camp. Let me know your thoughts on this whole thing down below, because that'll do it for this episode of Spurs Digest. If you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, and hey, most importantly, help us hit that 10,000 subscriber goal. You guys have been watching every day. We appreciate you so much. Thank you for tuning in. I've been your host, Josh Gosse, and I'll catch you in the next one.